In the 25-year and 50-season history of Survivor, there have been a near countless number of strategic advancements that have pushed the game forward in some way. Yet there's one that I believe truly stands alone atop the pinnacle of ingenuity, and which has only been pulled off once due to the specific set of circumstances required. The move I'm talking about is the minority split vote at the final 12 of David versus Goliath, in which 5 Davids were able to outplay the Goliath majority with just a single idol. Ever since Cowboy dreamed up the idea of splitting votes to defeat the idol all the way back on Cook Islands, 24 seasons ago by the time of David vs. Goliath, it has become a staple of the strategic diet for players in the majority, with the basic idea being that by putting a number of votes on 2 players that are either equal to or greater than the number of votes held by the minority, a single idol will never be able to result in a member of the majority being voted out.
Cowboy believes that Jonathan has a hidden immunity idol. So Plan Voodoo would split our votes between Jonathan and Candace, forcing a 3-3 tide, and if Jonathan has the hidden immunity idol, it'd force it to be played. And so that way you accomplish 2 goals. 1, you get the hidden immunity idol out of Jonathan's hands, and 2, you get one of those 2 people to go home.
The caveat of splitting votes is that it requires a large enough majority that both members of the minority that will be receiving votes will receive enough to at worst result in a tie and a subsequent revote. This was the first issue for the Goliath majority, as with only a 7-5 advantage, it was impossible to split votes effectively due to the assumption that all 5 David votes would be going on the same target, meaning that they would be creating a 5-5-2 vote for absolutely no benefit. The second thing working against the Goliaths was that it was leaked to the Davids that the Goliath target was Christian, the largest threat left among the 5 Davids and their presumed leader.
The only person who's like a strong player out here besides us is Christian. Anybody watching this season, either they're rooting for Christian or they're like, why aren't they taking out that guy?
I love him, but why the hell aren't they taking him out?
The Goliaths are all on the same page tonight to vote out Christian. And it sucks, man. He's an honorary brochacho. But he's smart, he's charismatic, he's good socially, and because of that, he's a threat.
Under perfectly normal circumstances, this would be an inconvenient piece of information to have floating around, but nothing that could sink the Goliath majority. Where things began to get complicated, however, was in the sheer number of advantages held by the Davids.
Right now, I got a freaking idol, my very own, no one else knows.
You know who it better.
Okay, so you let him know.
Okay, I have an idol nullifier.
Carl has the idol nullifier, which allows him to smash any idols that are played. And now we have a freaking steal a vote if we need it.
We're the only 3 that know this.
This threat was somewhat neutralized by the fact that Dan, a member of the Goliath majority, held 2 idols by himself and was seemingly willing to play them in order to ensure the Goliaths stayed firmly in control, especially as they believed that Angelina would be the sole recipient of the David votes, and even if an idol was played on Christian, the playing field would then be leveled by Dan playing one of his idols on Angelina, resulting in the 7 votes for Christian being nullified and the 5 for Angelina being cancelled out as well. In this scenario, the worst case that the Goliaths had planned for, none of the cast votes would count and a revote would be triggered, in which the majority still held the 7-5 advantage necessary to eliminate any of the other 4 Davids eligible to receive votes. Unbeknownst to the majority, however, the 5 Davids were cooking up a plan that all but ensured their safety, while in all likelihood also flushing one of the idols being held by Dan. The final edit of the episode cuts the creation of this plan out, but post-game interviews have revealed that Davey, the David in possession of the idol, told his ally Nick about it, and a plan was then hatched to play it on Christian, who they knew to be the Goliath target. This by itself wasn't enough to save the Davids, but where the real strategic evolution comes in is in the realization that splitting the votes doesn't have to be a strategy employed solely by the majority, provided a certain set of circumstances are met, the exact set of circumstances that the Davids are playing under. First of all, it requires that the disparity between the majority and minority is small enough to make a majority split vote impossible to effectively enact. Secondly, an idol is necessary to save the target of the majority from elimination. And lastly, the minority needs to know with certainty where the votes of the majority will be landing. Otherwise, it becomes a guessing game, and the idol is unlikely to be played correctly. With this specific set of parameters in mind, it becomes clear why the minority intentionally splitting their votes only occurred 37 seasons into the show's lifespan, and why it hasn't happened since. There are simply too many variables for it to be a possible move with any level of frequency, let alone whether it's a logical one to make. The Davids believed in the value of the move, however, and could afford to risk it backfiring due to the seemingly unbreakable nature of the Goliath alliance, dooming them if they didn't do something drastic, and the knowledge that if everything went down as intended, they could turn a 6-5 minority to a 6-5 majority through the use of their steal vote advantage. With everything lined up for the Davids to make a game-breaking move, they still had to execute their plan and not let on that they had an ace up their sleeve. The Goliath vote being switched off of Christian would have doomed the plan and resulted in their strongest tool, the idol, being wasted.
Threat level in Survivor, and that's something that I completely neglected in this game, and as a result, I could be an enormous target.
Tribal went off without a hitch, and when it was time to vote, the Goliaths placed all 7 of their votes on Christian, as expected. Gabby and Carl voted for Angelina, as the Goliaths expected, but Davey, Nick, and Christian all voted for John, one of the backbones of the Goliath Alliance, and someone they knew Dan wouldn't think to play an idol on. When it was time for the votes to be read, Davey played his idol on Christian, and in doing so spooked the Goliaths enough for Dan to play one of his idols on Angelina, allowing the Davids to kill 2 birds with 1 stone once the votes were read and John was eliminated.
What? Can I say a few things, Jeff? Sure. For the people in my alliance, I'm sorry I had to hide this from you guys, but I think you'll understand. And I'm nervous, Jeff, but I'm more nervous for Christian. This is for him, okay?
This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Christian will not count.
Well, I want to take care of my alliance too. I'm gonna play this for Angelina.
Okay? This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Angelina will not count. All right, I'll read the votes.
David versus Goliath.
First vote. Christian does not count. 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 Angelina.
Thank God.
Does not count. Angelina does not count. John. 1 vote, John. Ninth person voted out and the 2nd member of our jury. John. Let's do that's enough. Need to bring me a torch.
This move set the stage for the 5 Davids to seize control of the game. And although cracks within their alliance gave the majority right back to the Goliaths only a few tribals later, it completely changed the flow of the rest of the game. It was an integral part of making David versus Goliath one of Survivor's greatest seasons. While there have been players voted out in the past while not receiving the majority of votes, both from idle plays and through pluralities, such as the 3-2 to 1 vote pioneered by Suri Fields. It had never before and has never since been done in this fashion. And with 3 starting tribes becoming the standard during the new era, it seems unlikely that the stars will align in such a way for a minority split vote to occur again, making this a one-of-a-kind move in Survivor history, and one which is a perfect showcase for the strategic evolutions that continue to take place in the show currently in its 50th season.